Hi there. So I just wanted to make a quick instructional video because some of you might prefer to watch this in a visual demonstration than to read the written instructions for what you are supposed to do for Thursday, September 3rd by 2:15 p.m. So it's just a little preliminary assignment before reading the main reading that we're going to read for the 1619 project. It's just a way to generate discussion. So I'm going to share my screen with you and just give you a quick rundown of how to find the materials and what to do with them. All right, so all you have to do is go into the course page, go into the weekly folder. So you'll see it here once you open that. Weekly folder for September 1st and 3rd. And then all you have to do is go in that. And you're going to find all these materials. So basically, just pick two of them. You have, if you click this link, it'll take you to the 1619 LibGuides that a Brooklyn College librarian set up, and there's a ton of materials there. So if you go here, go to additional readings and materials, and you'll see a ton of stuff. The 1619 podcast, which is, I also have a thumbnail for in the weekly folder. You have this, which is a course curriculum set up around it, so you could read something out of here. This is the 1776 project, which is a sort of counter argument that criticizes the 1619 project. In some ways, there's a controversy that surrounds the 1619 project and a lot of opposing viewpoints that were vocalized in the wake of the publication of the 1619 project in the New York Times. So some of these, even if you don't use it for what we're going to do, it's helpful just to sort of browse through and figure out exactly what the 1619 project is. So you can read 2 articles, you can watch 2 videos, you can mix and match. If you go here, if you have Spotify, there's the it's a podcast set up around the 1619 project, so you can just click that, play on Spotify. If you have Spotify, you can do this. I don't think you can do it if you don't have Spotify. And then there's different episodes here. So maybe, for example, if there's something you're particularly interested in, let's say interested in music, then you might want to watch like The Birth of American Music or something like that. That's related, but still ties in your own personal interests with it. You have, this one is really long, so it's like a conference set up around it, which is about 2.5 hours. And again, don't shy away from something just because it's long. If you want to watch some 2.5 hour video, it doesn't mean you watch all 2.5 hours. But the key is to just, ideally, not everybody will pick the same things. So this is like a radio show. You have this one, which is a very, some of you might know this guy. Some of you might be annoyed by this guy, but it's a counter argument. So watch, read, or listen to any 2 items from the link or from the thumbnails, from the podcasts, whatever you want. Take your pick. Choose 2. Not this. Do not choose this. This is the reading we're going to This is our main reading, Nicole Hannah Jones's introduction. So I put here, you can go ahead and read it if you want, but don't use it for this little assignment. But we will talk about that next week. So pick any two, and then record a quote. The quote can be any length, but make sure that it makes sense as a standalone thing. So if it's a quote from the video or the podcast, just write it down. If it's from one of the texts, then you could just copy and paste something. And you should also write down a question or a response. So it can be a brief statement of agreement and why you agree with the quote you've selected, or with the piece as a whole. It doesn't have to be your response and or question rather. It doesn't have to be directly about the quote, but it should be in reference to the piece. And then once you've selected one quote from each of the things you've read, watched, or listened to, and written down a brief response or a question. It could also be a question like, I didn't understand this, so and so. I want to know more about this because, it could just be a rhetorical question. And then go to the wikis right here. The 1619 project group wikis, also in the weekly folder, and you'll see everybody's name organized into different groups. Right, so let's say I'm Nick, right? I'll be in group 5. Just click on that, and then it takes you to your group's wiki page, and click edit wiki content, and then you can write. So this is a collaborative document that you and your 2 group mates will be working on together. So let's say I wanted to use this article. So I'm picking a completely arbitrary quote just to give you an example. So let's say this is the quote I liked. Just copy it. You have to use Control V on Blackboard. Put it in quotations and say where you got it. So it doesn't have to be a proper citation, but let's say you wanted to use this. Do Sean Willents. A Matter of Facts is the name of the piece. And then you could and then write the name of the magazine. And then you could just say something like via the link, right? It doesn't have to be a proper MLA citation for this. Although if you want to do a proper MLA citation, by all means. You could say something like, I disagree with Willence's, I'm just improvising this, this isn't a specific point about Jim Crow laws in the South because you know, da 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 da, whatever you want to put. It could be, you know, because read I read somewhere else um, that these laws had a far longer impact than Woodlands recognizes. So what I'm writing here probably has nothing to do with the actual article, but just to give you an example. Right, and then you do it again. So you have one. You could click submit. And then let's say you wanted to you watch a video. So then you could take a quote like that, like sorry. So let's say you want to quote her as saying rum is the currency of the slave trade. You go back into edit. You do like Nicole Hannah Jones in the PBS NewsHour video states that rum was currency of the slave trade. Right, so it can be pretty casual, like even if you don't get the quote exactly word for word, just make sure that the content matches up. And if you put this, it'll be clear, at least to me, what you're talking about, what you're referring to. If you get something from the link, try to be a little bit more specific, because there's an abundance of material there that I haven't read all of it. But like if you're using an article, just make sure you have the author, the title of the piece, and the container, so the magazine site, and then just tell me how you got there via the link. So you do a quote and then some kind of response about it, or a question. So in this case, it could be like, don't understand Hannah Jones's statement. Why was rum so important to the slave trade? And how did it have any exchange value, let's say. Right, so you have a question, I know what you're talking about. So the point of this is just to set up discussion points, and then go into your group and discuss. Right, so you have a quote. When you get in your group, you'll talk to your group about why you found the quote interesting, what is provocative in it, or what is it that you particularly agree with, that it somehow strikes a chord with you. Or it could, you know, a lot of this is controversial, and some things you read might make you angry. So, you know, it could be an emotional response. Like this, I find this this quote really makes me angry, or it makes me particularly sad to realize in this episode in history. Anything you want, really, as long as you're doing this, as long as you're getting a quote with some point of reference of how you got it, and then for the same article or video or podcast, just a statement, a brief response statement. It could be in this, it could be a sentence, a paragraph, as long as you want it to be. Just something that's thought out enough that you could have a discussion, a brief discussion, and then do it again. So you could do an article and a video, you could do an article and a podcast, whatever you want, any of those things, and then you just submit it. And then when we meet on Thursday as a class, your group members will be able to see what you've written, and then you can discuss about why you selected those quotes. What you can elaborate on your response, elaborate on your question. Maybe if it's a question about facts, one of your group mates might even be able to answer it. So on and so forth. We'll organize the discussion on Thursday, but just make sure you have these materials. So all of that can be found in your weekly folder for September 1 and 3rd. You have the project, the 1619 project discourse materials. By discourse, I just mean discussion, the link, the podcasts, and a bunch of videos. So shop around, pick one you like. Again, like this one is like an hour, I think. Doesn't mean you have to watch the whole thing necessarily. If you want to, I mean, it's interesting stuff. So, pick something you like. Yeah, and put a little wiki together, which you have the link to there. Go find your name, wherever it is. Go to your group's wiki page. 2 quotes and 2 responses / questions. And that's all you have to do. And then just save it. And we'll use that to fuel small group discussions on Thursday. This is my first time using these wikis, so if there are any problems, please do not hesitate to contact me right away that you're having trouble editing your wiki page or adding content or something like that. I don't think you'll have a problem. It's pretty straightforward. You just click on the edit wiki. Yeah, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions about anything, though. It doesn't have to be about the wiki page. Yeah.